Well, thank everybody for making it out to the monsoon out there. John Legend, I'm so excited to do this.
I'm excited to be here with you, John. Thank you for having me.
I have to ask you, you were at Barack Obama's going away party at the White House.
I was.
What was that like?
Well, it was a good party. They always throw good parties. We've been to other parties there. I think we had more fun at other parties because the context wasn't as sad. There was everything about the immediate surroundings were festive, but I was aware why we were there, and it wasn't as festive in the back of my mind. So I think I've had more fun at previous parties there, I'll say.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about a million things actually, but you're working La La Land in
Yes.
award season.
Mm-hmm.
I'd asked you weren't at the pitch meeting, but the pitch meeting must have been great.
Well, Damien Chazelle, he came up with this idea 6 years ago, before he made Whiplash, and he knew it was kind of a tall ask to get a studio to fund, a film that would cost tens of millions of dollars and be an original musical with a traffic scene that would, require them to shut a highway down, and it was a lot to ask. So he figured it would be better to wait until he proved himself as a filmmaker first, and so he made Whiplash, which was obviously very well regarded. I loved it personally, and it was one of my favorite films that year, and my producing partner said, you should meet up with Damien Chazelle, you guys should do something together. And so I met with him, and we talked about a range of things, but he was in the midst of getting ready to make La La Land happen. It had found a studio with Lionsgate. Mark Platt had come on as a producer. He's been a very successful Broadway and film producer, and they wanted me to get involved. The conversation first was really about music and about whether I'd be interested in writing music and possibly being a co-executive producer of the film. And they didn't make it clear to me that they wanted me to actually be in it until a little bit later. So he said, go, just read the script and see what you think. And then he told me to pay attention to this character, Keith. And then we started talking about who Keith was and what he stood for. And eventually he said, I think I want a musician to play Keith, not an actor, not someone who's mainly an actor, but someone who's mainly a musician, because I feel like it will lend authenticity to the conversation and to the music and everything else. And so he asked me to do it, and I said yes. And here we are. And everybody but Aziz Ansari loves it. I saw that skit, and I thought it was hilarious, by the way. And Aziz and I are friends, and I thought it was very, very funny. Good skit. I am, in fact, black. I can attest to the fact that I am black, and I am part of La La Land.
But here's the burning question. Keith's song in La La Land.
Yes.
Is it a good song? Is it a bad song? What's it supposed to be?
The job of that song was to be a good song, but clearly not a song that Gosling's character would want to play. So that was kind of like the needle we were trying to thread, that it was intentionally more commercial, intentionally more, just not what a traditional jazz head would want to play, but still a viable alternative if you were going to go in that direction. And so that was the idea. That was Damien's kind of assignment that he gave me to write the song, was to try to thread that needle where it was definitely a viable alternative. It definitely didn't suck, but it was definitely not something Gosling's character would want to do.
But it's interesting that so many jazz guys get employment and get inspiration from pop.
Yeah, I mean, so many of the musicians that I've played with over the years have some background in jazz. And partly that's because there's such an emphasis on virtuosity, I think, in jazz, that there's a lot of talented players. And then obviously there's a bigger market for pop music, R&B, and other genres. And so if you're not getting the gigs in jazz, you got to get them somewhere. And having the ability to play jazz well usually means you can play some other things well, even though it's kind of, you're a little overqualified for it. And so I think a lot of musicians that we work with in the business, both as session musicians and as touring musicians, have some background in jazz, but they end up playing music that's a little less challenging.
But do you think they're hating it, or do you think they're using a different skill set?
I think it's a different skill set, and some of them might hate it. Honestly, I don't know. Hopefully, they don't hate playing with me. But I think it's just a different skill set, and it's a different type of music. But it can be beautiful. Like pop music can be gorgeous, and it can be transcendent and beautiful and moving, and being playing in front of a great audience that's enjoying that can be very very thrilling for a musician. So I don't see any reason why you would hate doing that unless you're so rigid about the kind of music you enjoy that you can't enjoy different types of music.
It also seems they gave Keith the pivotal argument in that film.
Yeah, it was an interesting argument because, that was like my scene, my monologue. If I'm over on a talk show, that's the scene they play. And, I never had a monologue ever. Even when I was in high school and I acted in musicals, I was always the guy that sang most of the time and never really spoke that much because I never saw myself as, mainly an actor. I saw myself mainly as a singer. But in that monologue, that actually was improvised, that version that made the film, because we ran the version that was in the script a few times. And then he was like, now I just want you to say it however you want to say it. Improvise it, be loose with it. So we did a few takes of that, and he kept one of those takes for the final cut. But the idea, obviously, behind the conversation was Ryan Gosling's character, Sebastian, only saw jazz as kind of one thing, as the type of music that was made maybe in the 60s and 70s, and I don't know what the exact, kind of classification for that type of jazz is. Nate Chanin would probably know very well. But that's what he was stuck on. He wanted to play that type of music, and he was a purist about it. And my character was basically saying, you can't be such a purist. If you want to make something special and new and revolutionary, then you can't be bound so much by tradition. You have to go out and forge something new. And the people you love that made music back then, they were doing something new at the time. And I think that's a legitimate critique, but I also think if there's a guy like Sebastian that only wants to play the type of music he wants to play, there's a place for him too. There's a place in the landscape for him. He wants to open up a cool club in LA and get people to come, and that's what he wants to play. He might not be on the Hot 100, or he may not be on pop stations, but that's not the only definition of success as a musician. If you're doing what you love to do and you're able to make a living and enjoy what you enjoy what you're doing, then I think it's a viable way to live.
Yeah. Well, which brings up, what was your ambition when you became the legend?
My ambition, I didn't want to just play a club around the corner. I wanted to make a big impact, and I didn't really have exact kind of, I want to be on the Hot 100, I want to do this, I want to do that. But I grew up watching the Grammys. I grew up watching my favorite artists perform on television, and I knew how much they meant to me and how thrilling it was to see them do that. And as a kid, I said, I want to be there. I want to do that. When I saw Stevie Wonder and Luther Vandross and Michael Jackson and Aretha Franklin playing on television, and I was thrilled by what they did, I said I wanted to do that. And I said it at a very young age. And the way I started doing it was playing in church and playing at school and wherever I could in my hometown. But I always envisioned myself being, at the Grammys, being at these big shows and being able to play my music.
Did you, your first album, when it came out, I thought, man, this guy has digested the entirety of soul music. I mean, did you spend days and years at the piano reverse engineering Stevie Wonder songs?
Well, I played a lot of Stevie Wonder songs, particularly in like my mid to late teens into my 20s. Listened to a lot of, Talking Book and Songs in the Key of Life and Fulfilling This First Finale and Music of My Mind and Inner Visions, those albums. I think my argument is that's the best decade of any solo artist ever. He made brilliant albums, like back-to-back albums that stand the test of time. He won, I think, 3 Album of the Year, the Grammys.
And he made them all by himself.
Yeah, and he basically made them all by himself. He had co-writers on some songs and some other musicians, but it was pretty much driven by him. I don't know. You're a music journalist, but I can't think of another solo artist that has had a career that he's had, and particularly that period was brilliant.
But what I was thinking was it wasn't just him. It was him and Marvin Gaye.
Yes,
Notice, right?
definitely Marvin Gaye, definitely Aretha Franklin, definitely Nina Simone. Also, I listen to like some of the kind of vocal pop jazz artists of, like the Nat King Coles of the world, the Ella Fitzgeralds, and so some of my phrasing when I think about how I phrase things, I'm thinking about Nat King Cole, I'm thinking about Ella, I'm thinking about certain people like that because I looked up to them as well. And then of course gospel. I think those are the kind of the main pillars of my musical heritage and the things that I studied to be where I am. I played more gospel growing up than anything else as a kid.
Did you always know you could sing?
From a pretty young age, I started playing piano. I took piano lessons when I was 4. We had a piano in the house, and neither of my parents played, but my grandmother was the church organist, and then my other grandmother played at church as well. She didn't play as regularly, but both of my grandmothers played. And then my dad played the drums at church. My mother was the choir director. So there was always a piano in the house. There was always music in the house. There was always music at church, and my family was responsible for creating it. And so I was just surrounded by music. And so it was pretty intuitive for me to want to try it. Mm-hmm. And then I figured out that I was pretty good at it. By the time I was 7, I wanted to sing all the time. And I felt like I was pretty good at it, and people liked it at church, and they liked it at school when I was in a little Christmas musical. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the smiles that I would see on people's faces. I enjoyed feeling like I did something that I could be proud of. And I loved music itself, and the thrill that music could give me and could give other people.
Did you start writing songs as a
I was writing pretty young. I was probably like 9 or 10 when I started writing songs. Like the range of them were things I would write for the choir at church. So I wrote some gospel songs, and then things I would write to hit on girls that I liked.
Did it work?
Not really. But I tried.
Do you ever go back and look at that stuff and think?
I don't have any recordings of it. I mean, I would have to remember it, and I don't really remember much of it, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was there a point, I mean, I know you sang in the a cappella group in college. Mm-hmm. I mean, was there a point where you thought this is an actual career? Or?
Well, all that time I wanted to be a star. Like I wanted to be where I am now all that time. I didn't know what that meant, though. I didn't know what it meant to get a record deal. I didn't know what it meant. I just thought I should go on Star Search as a kid. Like I wanted to go on and meet Ed McMahon and get 4 stars, and that was going to do it. And I think kids now, they watch The Voice or they watch American Idol or X Factor or whatever. They would probably think the same thing. Like this is the way that you become successful in the music business. But most people's path is not that. And I didn't know what that meant until I got to college and started meeting people who worked in the music business, meeting producers. I met Lauryn Hill while I was in college, and I started to figure out, what actually goes into an artist going from, oh, I can sing to I'm going to build a career as a recording artist.
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's complicated, and part of it's internal, where you have to figure out who you are as an artist, what kind of songs you want to write, what style of music you want to be known for, what is kind of your voice as a lyricist, and musically what your voice is. All those things you have to figure out, and then you have to figure out a way to sell that to whoever's buying. And in my case, the people that were buying are record labels, so they're the gatekeepers that allow an artist to reach you. At least they were back then, whereas now there's a little more, there's a lot more kind of democratic ways of us reaching you. But back then, there's pretty much the only way you could get known by a large audience was to go a fairly traditional route of building some audience locally, making your own demos and kind of indie albums, but eventually someone would have to notice you who had the resources and the know-how to make you a global star. And that's what record labels specialize in, and they still do. But I think there are more ways for people to get discovered now.
Yeah, you can make your own viral video.
Yeah, exactly.
Be your own meme.
Yeah. So exactly. I mean, there's a lot of ways. But either way, you still have to figure out who you are as an artist, develop your talent, and get great at it. And eventually, they always say luck is when opportunity meets preparation. As long as you're prepared and seek out those opportunities, then usually something good can happen.
So was the pivotal moment the Kanye connection for you?
That was very pivotal. I think there were a series of things that happened during that time. So let's kind of flash back and tell the story a little bit. So I went to college at the University of Pennsylvania. I started there in '95 and graduated in '99. The first project I ever played on was Lauryn Hill's album, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. That happened while I was still in school. It was 1998. I met Lauryn through a friend of mine, Tara Watkins, who was a singer in the church choir that I was directing in Scranton, Pennsylvania, which is a couple hours north of Philly, but I would drive up there on Sundays and play for the church, direct the choir, and then drive back to Philly and go to school. So one of the young ladies in my choir was Tara Watkins. She had grown up partially in Scranton, but also in northern New Jersey, and went to school with Lauryn during that time. She was kind of like a big sister for Lauryn. And she said, hey, my friend Lauryn is working on her album, and I knew Lauryn, of course, from the Fugees by then. They were massive by then as a group, but this was her first solo album, and everyone was anticipating that. And so I went to New Jersey and just hung around the studio, and it was just Lauryn, Rohan, Veda Nobles, a bunch of the people that kind of co-created the Miseducation album. They were all in the room. They were jamming. They were figuring out this song, and the song they happened to be working on ended up being a song called Everything is Everything. When I was there, it wasn't clear that they knew where it was finally going to go, but they had a kind of a beat and a rough idea, and it kind of evolved into what the song eventually was. But during one of the breaks of them songwriting, Tara was like, Johnny, you got to play something for Lauryn. She's got to hear you. So I played a song, original song of mine, and then I played Love's in Need by Stevie Wonder. So those are the two songs I played for her. And she was like, pretty good, and asked me to play piano on the song they were working on at the time, and it was Everything is Everything, and I was the boom, a bum, bum, bum. That's me on the piano. Yes, exactly. So that was my first taste of being on something, that the world heard. I had, recorded with my a cappella group, and I, done little demos in my friend's home studio, but this was the first thing that was major that I was ever a part of, and this happened, the recording happened while I was a junior at Penn, and the album came out leading into my senior year at Penn. And so my senior year, I was like so happy. I was like, I'm on Lauryn Hill's album. Everybody at school knew Jon was on Lauryn Hill's album. And that was my little claim to fame. And I auditioned actually in the summer before school started to be in Lauryn's band and tour with her. And I was prepared to quit school and go on tour, but it didn't work out. They picked somebody else. And
you flunked the audition.
She picked somebody who was way more experienced, and she made the right decision. Everything worked out. But so I didn't get to be on the tour, and so I went back to school. While I was in school, I really started working in earnest because I felt like some momentum and some inspiration from having the opportunity to see something happen up close that ended up being one of the biggest albums of that year and of that decade, really. So I started working in earnest on my first demo, and it was with a producer that I knew from the a cappella group that I was in, and he had already graduated and was working in pop music and helped me make my first demo. We shopped it around to record labels, and nobody bit, and so we kept moving. Then I started working with another producer named Dave Tozer, who's worked on pretty much all of my albums as a recording artist. I was working with him around that same time. He was based in Philly at the time. He's based in New York now. and we made another demo, and we started putting together a band that would play at, clubs around New York. So we'd play at SOBs, we'd play at Jimmy's Uptown, we'd play at the Bitter End, the Knitting Factory, every small venue you can think of, Joe's Pub. We would play in Philly as well, because he was based there, and some of our musicians were based there. We'd play at like the 5 Spot and other places like that. We were around the scene at the same time that kind of the neo-soul scene in Philadelphia was at its zenith. So Questlove and those guys were in Philadelphia, and other artists would come to town and record with them, like Common and D'Angelo. Other artists were from there, like Bilal and Music Soul Child and Jill Scott. And I wasn't close with any of them, but I was kind of in the same sphere as all of them, and getting inspired by all the success that was coming out of it. And so that was another kind of thing that made me feel like, yeah, I gotta do this. And then when I graduated, I kept going with all that, but I also started working as a management consultant at BCG. So you're like, what? What? So I graduate, all my friends are doing interviews, and they're working at banks and consulting firms in New York, and you feel kind of like this momentum and pressure to do the same thing they're doing. Even though I wanted to be a musician, I knew I wanted to be a musician, but I knew I had to get a job because my parents didn't have any money, and I had to take care of myself, whatever I was going to do. So I was like, let me go to these interviews and see what happens. And I ended up getting a job at like a really prestigious firm, and my first paycheck was $50,000 a year, and to me that was like a lot of money. My dad had never made that much money ever as a factory worker, and so I was like, I got to take this job. I'm going to take the job, and I'm going to play music at night, and I'm going to figure it out. So at night I would play at little clubs. Like I said, I would record and write new songs. And at one of the gigs I played, I met a guy named Kanye West. This was in 2001. And the reason I met him, it wasn't just random. My roommate was his cousin. So my roommate, Devon Harris, was his cousin and is his cousin.
These things happen.
And, he was like, my cousin just moved in from Chicago. He's going to be on Jay-Z's next album, which was The Blueprint, which came out in September of 2001. And, you should work with him. I think you guys would work well together. So before that happened, before the album came out, he was already coming to New York and about to live there because he was starting to get a lot of buzz from Rockefeller and all the people he had worked with. And he felt like it was time to make the move to New York and really make a living as a producer and eventually as a rapper. So he came to New York, came to my show at Jimmy's Uptown in Harlem, and Devon introduced us. So he was like, that was a great gig, let's stay in touch. And so we stayed in touch. Not long after that, I started going to work with him in the studio. He was working on his demo as a rapper, which eventually became The College Dropout. And if you've heard stories about his path to becoming a solo artist, you know that a lot of people doubted him, and it was like, yeah, he's just a producer who's trying to rap. Producers can't rap, And people, kind of doubted his prospects as a solo artist. But he asked me to come and help him with his project, and he helped me with mine. So he would make beats that I would write to for my demo, and then I would sing hooks on his demo. And he was trying to get a record deal. I was trying to get a record deal. He got one first at Rockefeller Def Jam. And then he eventually signed me to what became Good Music, Getting Out Our Dreams. And he would take me to the major labels and try to get them to sign me. In the meantime, I would play on all the other stuff he was working on. So he started working with Alicia Keys, and I played on and sang on You Don't Know My Name. And he brought me in with Jay-Z. They were working on Encore, and I ended up singing, What the Hell Are You Waiting For? That was me. And then he brought me in with Dilated Peoples and Slum Village. We did Selfish, and all that happened before I got a record deal. And so momentum was building. I had written Used to Love You with him and Let's Get Lifted, and I think a few other songs that ended up on Get Lifted I wrote with him, and some of the other ones I wrote with Dave Tozer and with Devon, Kanye's cousin. And pretty much before I had a record deal, almost all of Get Lifted was recorded. in its original form, though we kind of re-recorded some of it. All of it was written. And all of that was on my demo. And I was still getting turned down by everybody. But finally, when the College Dropout came out, it was like this huge event in music. And it was starting to happen when, Through the Wire came out and the other singles. But when the album came out, it was critically acclaimed. It sold like 400,000 units. And it was a big deal. So all those same people that listened to my demo prior to College Dropout, all of a sudden it sounded so much better to them after they saw Kanye's album sell 400,000 units. And so we went, basically all of them were interested again and wanted to sign me, and we got offers from several record labels and decided to sign with Columbia through Good Music. And that was in May of 2004 when I actually signed on the dotted line, 3 months after the College Dropout had come out. And my album came out in December of 2004, Get Lifted. So that's the short version of my my ascent and Kanye's role in it.
But it seemed like even you already had the mission statement, because Get Lifted is itself, it's positive thinking, it's very natural sound.
I figured out who I was going to be as an artist. As I was developing the music over the time with all those different collaborators, we were figuring it out. And by the time Get Lifted came out, it had been 3 years since the first song from Get Lifted was written. So the first song that actually made the cut was written in 2001. It was called Stay With You, and I wrote that with Dave Tozer. And everything else that was on the album was written in those 3 years. But the only song that was actually written after I got a record deal was pretty significant, a song called Ordinary People.
I think I've heard that.
So all the other songs were written prior to me getting a record deal. The only one that was written afterwards was Ordinary People.
Was that written because we need a single? Was that written because?
No, it was not at all. It was written because the Black Eyed Peas called me in to write with them. Yes, believe it or not. So I was friends with will.i.am, and he produced a couple songs on my first album, and we had the same manager at the time, David Sonnenberg. And David, one of the first things he said when I started working with him, because I think I had started working with Kanye too by then, but yes, I had started working with Kanye then. And he was like, another producer you should write with is will.i.am. And at the time, the Black Eyed Peas were more like kind of like a backpack hip hop kind of group. They were like the same people that loved Dilated Peoples and Slum Village were buying Black Eyed Peas albums before they did Where's the Love and became more of a kind of a pop rap outfit. So it made perfect sense at the time because it was kind of not too far from what I was doing with Kanye stylistically. And so I went over to LA and wrote She Don't Have to Know with will.i.am and wrote another song that he put on a compilation. And he really enjoyed writing with me. And he was like, you should write some more hooks for me for the Black Eyed Peas. So we were in New York at a Hit Factory, which no longer exists. I think it's like an apartment building or something now. So we were at the Hit Factory, and he was like, let's just jam and come up with some hooks for Black Eyed Peas songs. And so he was just playing different beats, and one of the beats was basically the chord structure of what eventually became Ordinary People. And we wrote the chorus there, and it was to a beat. It was like a hip-hop beat with that same chord structure. And I really liked that chorus, and I was like, Will, you think I could have that song back? I was like, I think it'd be a better, R&B song rather than a hip-hop song. The chorus just feels like it's more like in the matters of the heart that, I don't see you guys really doing it. So I took the song back, the chorus that we had written together, and then I went and wrote the verses for it and built the chords around it and wrote the bridge and all of that. And eventually we had a song. And my promise to Will was I'll let you produce it, whatever the final version of my song is. But the demo was the vocal piano version, and the vocal piano version was the one that ended up making the album. And now when I listen back to it, I'm like, oh, I could have re-recorded those vocals, man. But but it's like the raw demo version that I was just sending to Will for him to make a beat to it. That's the version that ended up making the album, and obviously it became a very significant song in the beginning of my career, and that's how it happened.
But I think the rawness was also what communicated.
That's what helped. I mean, I think it helped.
If you'd fixed it, it would have been broken.
Yeah, and it's hard as a musician because a lot of times you're trying to get it perfect, but a lot of times it being a little rough is what makes it better. And so it's like it's a challenge as an artist and as a producer to figure out what exactly you want to do with that, because certain things are more sublime when they're rough. But you hear it and you're like, oh, I could hit that note better, or I could do this better. So it's kind of a push and pull between those two impulses, to make it perfect or to make it kind of beautifully rough.
Well, can we fast forward to All of Me, which is also very sparse?
Yeah.
I was doing a story on the top 40 on that weekend, and everything else was quantized, produced, auto-tuned, and All of Me was like, there's no drums.
Yeah, and that's the same thing that happened with Ordinary People, and you know, sometimes because we get such a steady diet of drums and up-tempo and all this stuff, sometimes it's kind of like a breath of fresh air to get that, oh, this is simple, this is heartfelt, this is sincere, this is stripped down of all the accoutrement, and it's just a song.
But is there a giant power ballad version of that somewhere with 20 electric guitars in the string section?
There's a Tiesto version that he remade, and he just did that on his own, and we didn't even ask him to do it. But it ended up being a big component of why the song was so big, because when you have the ability to play the song on every format, because it could play on all the adult stations as the simple version, and some of the pop stations, but some of the pop stations, you know, during drive time, they want to keep the beat going, and so they use the remix. And I'm fine with that. I don't care really one way or the other. But it helps sometimes to get the spins up, to get the song out to more people.
Well, I was just wondering if you built it up and then took it down again.
There was, yes. So I wrote that song with Toby Gadd, who's a great songwriter, he's written with all kinds of people. And we wrote it in his house on the piano, but the first version he sent me had drums on it, and it was more built up. And I just didn't like it like that. I liked it simple. And every time we tried to mess with it, I was like, I wasn't happy. I was like, I knew the song was right, but I wasn't happy. And so finally I was like, let's just make it simple. It'll work better that way. And that's what we did.
Did you sit down and write the lyrics in a burst, or were those lyrics chiseled and crafted?
It was, all my songs are written in a burst, but I often may revisit them and maybe revise some things. But I always try to finish it that day.
Really?
Yeah. It's like, just I don't know, it might be a Capricorn thing, I don't know what it is, but I like to finish things. I like to feel like, I don't like to go back home until I've finished the song. And it usually takes me like 4 or 5 hours. I start with the music usually, or like the grain of a lyrical idea, but mostly it starts with the music. I'll explain that later unless you wanted me to do it now.
Guys, he's going to take apart a song for us later. Yeah. Let's wait.
We'll do it later. But either way, I start with the music, then I start humming melodies that feel right for it, and then eventually I start thinking of lyrics that fit with those melodies, and then I try to write at least a rough draft of the lyric that day. And for this current album, Darkness and Light, I would say probably 75% of the lyrics were written on the day.
Wow.
Maybe 70, but there's a lot of revision on each song, but still the bulk of the core idea is usually written on the first day.
It's like a journalistic deadline.
Well, my theory with songwriting, as with I think with any writing and with any creative task, is part of getting through any kind of writer's block is just forcing yourself to actually do it. Forcing yourself to actually write, forcing yourself to actually create. And even if that day it's not your best work, you don't have to put it out. You just don't put it out. So, or you revise it, or you do whatever. But the act of writing is going to make you more creative than just sitting around and waiting for something to happen before you get excited to write something. And so for me, I think the doing of it makes you write more, and it makes your total product better because you push yourself to be more creative, more prolific, and then you pick the best of that.
I would go for that.
Yeah.
It's your 10,000 hours.
Yeah, it's similar to that, and it's similar, and it's just like R&D with like a pharmaceuticals company, or R&D with any company, but particularly pharmaceuticals, because I did study that when I was at BCG. But they create a bunch of compounds, and they go in a certain direction. They kind of know what direction they're going in, but usually one of them is going to pay for all the other research when they hit on something special.
So music is like drugs.
Music is like drugs. That's been said before.
I was thinking of all the hats you wear now as a film producer. Can you compartmentalize and concentrate? I mean,
yes, because honestly, most of my professional time, my brain power, and my actual time is spent on music. It's like by a large margin. It's spent writing songs in the studio, touring, etc. But because of the way my company's structured and because of the way we are involved in these other projects, me being a producer on it doesn't actually require a lot of time. My team is able to spend more of the time taking all the meetings, reading all the scripts that come our way. I end up reading the scripts that we decide to do, but they're all screened by other people. So I don't actually have to spend a lot of time doing the other stuff that we're doing because I have a lot of great people helping me work on that stuff. I get to be the face of it and take all the credit, but they're doing a lot of the hard work. And my primary work product is writing a song, being in the studio recording, and then going out on the road.
Even now?
Yeah, absolutely, even now.
It does seem that your film stuff dovetails with the message in your songs.
Sure. A lot of the films we choose to work on, well, I was an English major in college, and my concentration was African American literature and culture. I read a lot of history of politics, civil rights movements, justice movements, and was always inspired by that stuff. And so a lot of the things we get involved with on the film side have some relation to that, or it's just some relation to music and my love of music, like La La Land. So just about everything we get involved with, in some way or another, the subject matter is really exciting for me and something that I feel like is in a sweet spot for me. And then we always want to work with, great, talented writers and directors, and that's how we usually go about deciding what kind of projects we get involved with.
I wanted to ask you about Glory. It seemed like Selma came out moments after Ferguson, and Ferguson was already in the song.
Yeah.
So that must have been a really tight deadline.
Yeah, it was quick. It all happened fast. I was on the road, still touring with All of Me and Love in the Future. And I was in Europe, I believe. Yes. I was in Europe. Common called me up and said, hey, I was in this film, Selma, and I had heard about Selma. I knew it was being made and it was coming out soon. I've been talking with our director, Ava DuVernay, and she wants like a special song at the end of the film. And Common said, well, I should ask John Legend. He'll be the perfect person to write it. And so he wanted us to collaborate on the song. And there was like a list of, he gave me like a list of title ideas that he had. And one of them was Glory. And something about Glory just felt right to me. And as soon as he said it, I like started humming something. I hummed it in my phone. And I hummed basically what it is now. It's not that different than what it is now. I changed a couple things. I think I changed hours. I said, one day when the glory comes, it will be yours, it will be yours. Because I was thinking like a tribute to Dr. King and saying, he didn't live to see all the things that, he wanted to see happen, but, we're going to always look at him as somebody that helped make it happen beyond, his death. But I decided ours was a better pronoun and went with that. But basically, the chorus was written almost right after I got off the phone, recorded in my voice notes, and that was it. and then I went to go record it, sent it to Common. He wrote verses for it, and like you said, Ferguson had just happened not too long before that. And, you know, that's why he said, that's why we walked through Ferguson with our hands up. That whole protest was, you know, all over the news and dominating a lot of conversation. And the timing couldn't have been more perfect for all of that to happen at the same time when it comes to making the film even feel more meaningful and more present, and the song as well.
I also wanted to ask you about the Oscar speech, which I thought was the best minute of international airtime use ever.
Well, I still say
it's
that
so strategic.
I still say that moment, both the performance of it and then the speech afterwards, are the height of my career as an artist. Because one, it was a very powerful experience, feeling the energy in the room, singing. One little secret about that was that if you listen back to the recording of it, there's this big a cappella moment at the end, and it was super powerful, but it wasn't supposed to happen until earlier that day in rehearsal. The musical track wasn't right, and we kept singing through the fact that the music had cut off, and I was like, wow, this sounds amazing. We got to cut it off at the end and let the a cappella part ring out, and that's why it ended up being that way at the Oscars. Anyway, so, you know, this moment happens, and I'm singing in front of the whole world, and there's really not many other chances a singer has to sing in front of the whole world, because even if you sing at the Super Bowl, like, the world doesn't watch football like we watch football. There's very few moments when the whole world is actually watching, and the Oscars is one of those moments. And so it was very powerful. In the room, people were crying. I felt, you know, energized and like inspired by just the moment. But I was nervous about that speech because I knew we had a very good chance of winning. And I knew how important the film was, and I did not want to waste that moment and just say, you know, thank you to the producers and thank you to them and thank you to the Academy. I just wanted to go straight for it and say what I wanted to say and honor the movement that the film represented and the heritage, and the legacy of that movement. So I planned it out. I knew what I wanted to say. I had been reading about, you know, mass incarceration, and I was about to form my group, Free America, and I was like, I'm going to talk about voting rights, and I'm going to talk about mass incarceration as issues of freedom, as issues of civil rights that we should be thinking about right now. And yeah, I said it. I'm glad I said it.
Too. The clock. You want to? You were going to explain to us how you wrote "Darkness and Light."
Yeah. So we'll do a little. Here's how I write a song moment. Okay. So with this particular song, "Darkness and Light," I wrote it with a guy named Jon Ryan, who also he's more of a pop songwriter. So it's kind of funny. This song is one of the least pop songs, I think, on the album, but when we got together, we had been talking about the Alabama Shakes album and Sound and Color and how much I liked it, and we had listened to that first song, which is also called Sound and Color, on that album, and we loved the groove of it, like the actual drum beat of it. And so when we were writing the demo version of this song, we actually loosely based it on the groove from Sound and Color, even though that's not the version that you hear now, because it's a completely different beat now. Anyway, so it started with a groove, kind of like a shuffle beat, just kind of like the Sound and Color beat. And then we started playing chords on top of it on the piano. And so I started playing, and then pretty soon after I was playing on top of the beat, I was kind of establishing what the chord pattern was going to be, and that's kind of how I approach every song. I figure out what the chord pattern is going to be, then I start singing a little bit, and the words have no meaning at first. It's like, and it's just nonsense. And so, but that nonsense starts to direct me because I know what the groove is, I know what the chord pattern is, I know what the melody of the song is, and I actually know the kind of the bounce and the rhythm of what the lyric is going to be before there actually is a lyric. And then there's certain words that I'll kind of mumble as I'm mumbling things, and they'll kind of stand out. Like Fire and Ice was one of the first things I wrote for that. Fire and ice, and I didn't even know what it meant yet, but eventually, as we were talking about what the whole Fire and Ice meant and what the groove of the song felt like, it felt like this kind of powerful, dynamic, sexual experience where it was kind of like an opposites attract situation, kind of like when two people come together that are different, but there's something special about their chemistry, and there's some danger and all of that. And once we kind of figured that that was the kind of basic theme of what the song was going to be, then you just try to figure out what those exact words are going to be that will express that. And a lot of it was about opposites, so fire and ice, darkness and light, you know, the end of one life, beginning in another, the end of one life and the beginning of another, which is the idea of two people forming a new life together and ending their lives separately. So all of those things were like playing with the push and pull of two different things coming together to become one. And so lyrically, that was what we were trying to do, and then eventually you just keep working on it until you get there. And so I used that model of the melody that I sing. I record it usually, the nonsense melody with no lyric on it as a guide, and then I'll just write the lyrics eventually for those that make sense with the song and with the theme of what I'm trying to express. So that's how I write a song.
But I have to ask you, then what happened?
So then what happened?
I mean, because there's
my mic back on? Okay.
There's hardly any piano on that song, and there's a lot
Yeah.
of weird guitar.
So here's what happened with the recording. So every song that I wrote for Darkness and Light, only a few of them I actually started with Blake Mills. The rest of them were started with other writers, other producers, et cetera, and we would record demo versions in that session. Like I said, I don't like to leave the session without having a song done. So usually when I leave that session, I have a demo recording of at least me playing on the piano and singing it, or if we wrote to a beat like I did with John Ryan on this song, it's a version sung to that beat, even if that's not going to be the final manifestation of the song. Mm-hmm. So I have all these demos, and when I met with Blake, Blake Mills is the producer of the album, who I reached out to, again, out of my love for sound and color and thinking he could be interesting as a producer for my album. Reached out to him, and I started playing him some of the songs we had already written, and he was into it. He wanted to do the project with me, and we then kind of deconstructed each song. Some of the songs we revisited some of the lyrics. Some of the songs we reconceived what the arrangement would be, and went through and just brought in the rhythm section and cut them. So the rhythm section was Pino Palladino, Chris, Dave, and Blake as the main guys. Pino plays the bass, Chris plays the drums, and Blake plays a lot of things, but he plays guitar very well and also plays bass, but if you got Pino, you don't have Blake play. And then we brought in, you know, keyboard players, horn players, all kinds of different players on different songs, strings, all kinds of things on different songs, but those were the three core musicians on every song. And as part of the development of each song was just jamming them with the band and seeing what it felt like. And sometimes we got it right the first time, sometimes we had to try again, but you just jam it with the band until it feels good. And this was what felt good for Darkness and Light, and it ended up being one of my favorites on the album, and really special moment. And then the final piece was, of course, Brittany. So we had already recorded a full version of the song with just me on it and a backup singer that wasn't going to be a featured recording artist. We brought in, well, the conversation was, oh, I'd love to do something with Brittany first.
This is Brittany Howard of
Brittany
Alabama
Howard
Shakes.
of the Alabama Shakes. So Brittany Howard, Blake and I, Blake was friends with her because he just made an album with her. And I was a fan. We hadn't really worked together before, but she did something on the 12 Years a Slave soundtrack that I curated. And I had met her at the Grammys with Blake. we had never actually been in the studio together and worked on something. But Blake said, let's do something with her. And I said, Darkness and Light feels like the right song. Because I knew the backstory of having like been inspired by them to even write it in the first place. And then I just felt like her voice would be awesome on it. And originally he was just going to have her do the "Don't Stop" during the chorus, the back and forth between me and her in the chorus. And he just recorded a version of that. And then I was like, well, why are we going to have her on the album and not really, really feature her? So I was like, we should have her come back in and record the second verse. And she came back in and recorded the second verse, and it was amazing. And, that's how the song was made with Britney.
Are things different now? You said the first song on the album says you're going to break the rules. I mean, was this album a way of rupturing the way you'd worked before, or?
Well, I thought, it's funny because that song, I Know Better. So I Know Better, I don't know if you guys have the album, but I Know Better, it kind of starts out saying, a few things about singing what you know and being true to yourself and disregarding kind of outside voices that might tell you to go one way or the other and just making music that's honest. And it's also about history and legacy and thinking about those that have come before us and honoring that legacy. And it's kind of a song about kind of self-examination as well and thinking about like what my own sense of my responsibility as an artist is. And I wanted this album to reflect all of that. Not because I didn't like what I had done before, not because I didn't feel proud of what I had done before, but I felt like I hadn't made an album yet that captured all of who I was in the most honest way that I could. And my attempt was to try to do that with Darkness and Light.
Well, what had you missed previously?
Well,
because, I mean, there's lots of changes through your whole catalog.
Yeah, and I think at the times I was making them, they felt right. Mm-hmm. But I think just living more gave me more perspective, gave me more things to think about, more to talk about. Like when I talk more about death a little bit on this album, and the idea that we're all going to die, and that like what's going to happen after we die with the work that we've done. I think more about I thought more about what it meant to be a father, because I wasn't a father before on the previous albums, and what it meant to be a husband because I wasn't a husband before. And so I think part of it was just having new experiences and really being honest about my thoughts about them. But I do think this album has a little bit more pessimism than some of my other albums too, because I think, or just kind of being a little less kind of sunny about the world, I think just because having lived more, I see the good, but I also see all the bad too. And I didn't want to ignore that when I was writing these songs.
Going forward, I mean, we're going into a different political era.
Yeah.
Speaking of farewell parties.
Yes.
I mean, do you see that as something you have to address in your songs?
I think we have to be honest in our songs, and I always quote Nina Simone that it's an artist's duty to reflect the times that you're living in. That doesn't mean every song needs to be political, but it does mean you should be honest about what you're feeling and what's important to you. And I think if that incorporates what's happening in presidential politics and in national politics, then so be it. I think a lot of us as artists are going to reflect on what's happening in Washington right now, and we don't know what's going to happen yet, because part of kind of the thing about that guy is he's very unpredictable. He made a lot of promises, but I don't know if he intends to keep them. Some of his promises were terrible, so I hope he doesn't keep them. Some of his promises, promising to create more jobs, I would love it if there's more manufacturing jobs in America. I would love it if people like my father, he's retired now, but I know what it's like to have your income depend on factories staying intact. And if his presidency leads to more of those staying intact, then I think that's a good thing for America, and it's a good thing for a lot of human lives in America. If it means taking health care away from people, then I want him to fail. But if it means making sure everyone has access to affordable health care, I don't care what you call it. You can call it Trump care, whatever you want to call it. But if that's what his definition of success is, then I want him to succeed. Right. So I'm not clear on what his presidency is going to be, so I'm not clear on how artists are going to respond, including myself, because we just don't know rhetoric versus in practice what it's going to be.
I was thinking the expanded triple album version of Wake Up.
It could be. I mean, I loved making Wake Up, and it was a beautiful experience to kind of get into those songs that we covered, and it'd be interesting to see what an original version of that album would sound like. But I also find that as much as people say they want you to write about political stuff, it's actually hard to write great political songs. It's like, because a lot of things I think about with politics are like, you know, I think about policy. Like I think about healthcare insurance premiums. I think about, you know,
it's hard to rhyme premiums.
Yeah, exactly. Making sure we elect the right district attorneys in certain cities, and make sure we end mass incarceration. So some of those things don't lend themselves to songs. You have to find a more poetic way of doing it, and it's actually kind of challenging as a songwriter to figure out the way to make it beautiful, make it transcendent, and also get your point across. Because my point is a little more kind of in the weeds sometimes, and I got to figure out how to like step back and make it more poetic. So I think that's the challenge of it, but I'm up to the challenge, and I'm interested in doing more of that.
We have some questions from the internet.
Mm-hmm.
Facebook has flooded us. Bindu Nair asks, is there a song you wish you had written?
Oh, there's plenty of them. Oh, man. One of the songs I always wish I wrote was Crazy by Gnarls Barkley. Something about it, it's just so perfect. It's like the perfect pop song to me. It's like, it's quick and to the point. It's so urgent. It's very musical. It's really good.
And it's crazy.
Yeah.
Can you talk about a time you almost called it quits, asks Andrew Cho.
I don't think I ever felt like I was on the brink of quitting. But I would say that, you know, that time when I was doing the whole management consulting thing, when I originally took that job, I was like, I'll only be doing this for a year, tops. But I did it for 3 years. And even after that, I didn't have a record deal. And it was a bit frustrating then. And there was a decision point, a point when you had to make a decision at one of those firms. They, you know, will keep you on for 2 or 3 years at the most, and after that, either you go to business school or law school or whatever, or you move on. And I just decided I'm not going to business school. I'm going to go all in on music, and I'm going to make it work. And the reason why I felt kind of confident in that was that I was already working with Kanye. I was already starting to build some momentum. This was in 2002. But I didn't get a record deal until 2004, so there were some times when I was like maxing out my credit cards and asking Kanye to borrow money, and you know, just like struggling. But I never felt like it wasn't going to work out. I felt like, you know, I was discouraged sometimes, but I always felt like it was going to happen.
Well, your songs are always positive thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I
usually end on a positive note, even if I'm like, I don't know, then I end on a positive note.
Well, do you feel like you have to fight cynicism?
I personally don't feel like I struggle that much with cynicism because I am naturally optimistic. Mm-hmm. But I do think more about, like, I'm aware that we're going to die. Like, I'm aware of that. Like, it's present in my mind when I think about my daughter and when I think about other things that happen in the world. I understand that life is short and fragile, but it doesn't make me cynical. I don't know why, though. I think it's more like a disposition. I think certain people are just the way they are. And I don't have any explanation why I'm fairly optimistic or more optimistic than most people, but I am.
Well, you look at death and you write a song about enjoying life.
Yeah. But like the greatest, Marching Into the Dark was originally called The Greatest. So Marching Into the Dark, which is the last song in the album, it's like kind of optimistic, but it's like
it's a struggle.
It's like because what I was writing about, and I wrote it for Dick Gregory. We produced a play called Turn Me Loose. It's off Broadway and it's moving to on Broadway hopefully soon. And they asked me to write a closing song for it, and that's why I wrote the song. and I was thinking about Dick Gregory. Dick Gregory lived a very interesting life and is still around, but I mean, decades ago he was living a really interesting life, and one of the things that is kind of notable about him is, in addition to him being a groundbreaking comedian and all these other things, he was very involved in the civil rights movement, and he was friends with people that got assassinated. He was friends with Dr. King. He was friends with other activists, Medgar Evers. So when I think about him, and when people write about him, a lot of what they write about is how he had premonitions about them getting assassinated, and how he was friends with them at the times when they died. And it just made me think more about, well, why commit to struggling for these things? Like, why did Dr. King do what he did? If he's dead, and if, like, some people believe in an afterlife, or that he's watching us from above, but I'm not convinced about the afterlife. So I'm like, well, he's just dead, probably. Like, there may be nothing else. You know, I don't know. I don't know that there's nothing else, but I definitely don't know there's a heaven. I definitely don't know there's a hell. So, like, what did it mean for him to commit himself to struggle for everyone to be more free? What did it mean for him to do that, and was it worth it? And so that was the first verse. And the second verse was thinking about love and knowing that love ends one way or another. Like, your relationship with another human being, that love relationship is going to end. Whether you get divorced or one of you dies first, it's going to end. That's so sad, right? And I actually thought about it because Louis C.K. does this bit where he's like talking about the kind of the futility of dating, and, you know, as he does. And one of the things he says is the best case scenario with this date is that you're going to fall in love with someone, and either they're going to divorce you, or they're going to die, or you're going to die. And
a little bit in between.
Either way, you're going to end up being really sad. But obviously, what that doesn't talk about is how awesome it can be in between those moments. And that's why I got married, and that's why we had a baby, and, you know, all those other things, because it can be beautiful in those moments, even though, you know, it's going to end. But the song, Marching Into the Dark, is kind of contemplating death, contemplating struggle, contemplating love, and thinking about whether it's worth going for it or not. And again, as I do, I end optimistically that I'm just going to march into the dark and make it happen.
There you go. This piano here is awaiting you. You were going to play some songs?
Yeah, I'll play some songs. Oh. What do y'all want to hear? Oh, my goodness. I don't know if we have time for all that. Let's do Save Room. Why not?
Say that you stay a little. Don't say bye-bye tonight. Say you'll be mine. Just a little bit of love. It's worth a moment of your time. Knocking on your door, just a little. It's so cold outside tonight. Let's get a fire burning. Oh, I know I'll keep it burning bright if you stay. Won't you save room for my love? Save room for a moment to be with me. Save room for my love. Save a little for me. Won't you save a little for me? Oh, this just might hurt a little. But love hurts sometimes when you do it right. Don't be afraid of a little bit of pain. Pleasure is on the other side. Let down your guard. just a little. I'll keep you safe in these arms of mine. Hold on to me, pretty baby, you will see. I can be all you need if you stay. Won't you save room for my love. Save room for a moment to be with me. Save room for my love. Save a little for me. Won't you save a little for me? Oh, come on, make time to live a little. Don't let this moment slip by tonight. You'll never know what you miss until you try. I'll keep you satisfied if you stay. Won't you save room for my love. Save room for a moment to be with me. Save room for my love. Save a little for me. Won't you save a little for me? Save room for my love. Save room for a moment to be with me. Save room for my love. Save a little for me. Won't you save a little for me? Oh. Pulling me further than I've been before, making me stronger, shaking me right to the core. Oh, I don't know what's in the stars, never heard it from above. The world isn't ours, but I know what's in my heart. If you ain't mine, I'll be torn apart. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone. So I'm gonna love you now like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't wanna think about it. I want you to love me now. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone. So I'm gonna love you now like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't want to think about it. I want you to love me now. Oh, love me now. Love me now. Oh, love me now. Oh, love me now. Love me now. I want you to love me now. Something inside us knows there's nothing guaranteed. Yeah, girl, I don't need you to tell me that you'll never leave. Oh, when we've done all that we could to turn darkness into light, turn evil to good, even when we try so hard for that perfect kind of love, it could all fall apart. And who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone? I'm gonna love you now like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't wanna think about it. I want you to love me now. Oh, love me now. Love me now. Oh, love me now. Oh, love me now. Love me now. Oh, I don't know how the years will go down. It's all right. Let's make the most of every moment tonight. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone. Well, I'm gonna love you now like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. I don't want to think about it. I want you to love me now. I don't know who's gonna kiss you when I'm gone. I'm gonna love you now, like it's all I have. I know it'll kill me when it's over. Don't wanna think about it. I want you to love me now. Oh, love me now. Love me now. Oh, love me now. Oh, love me now. Oh, love me now. Oh. Here's that former Black Eyed Peas song. Oh, 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 oh. Girl, I'm in love with you, but this ain't the honeymoon. We're past the infatuation phase. Right in the thick of love. At times we get sick of love. It seems like we argue every day. I know I've misbehaved, and you made your mistakes, and we both still got room left to grow. And though love sometimes hurts, I still put you first, and we'll make this thing work. But I think we should take it slow. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, oh, oh. This time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, oh, oh. This time we'll take it slow. This ain't a movie, no. No fairy tale conclusion, y'all. It gets more confusing every day. Sometimes it's heaven sent, then we head back to hell again. We kiss, then we make up on the way. I hang up, you call, we rise and we fall, and we feel like just walking away. But as our love advances, we take second chances. Though it's not a fantasy, I still want you to stay. We're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow. Oh, we're just ordinary people. We don't know which way to go, 'cause we're ordinary people. Maybe we should take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, this time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, this time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Slow. This time we'll take it slow. Take it slow. Oh, this time we'll take it slow. The new one is called Surefire. Can you just stay through the night? Turn down the bed and the blinds before you turn around. Can you just stay through the night? Let me breathe you until gravity bends. We fall through the hole in the light. Make this our kingdom, somewhere where good love conquers and not divides. I may not know a lot of things, but I feel it in my chest. No, I won't let the blue flame die. We can't lose hope just yet, 'cause it's once, just once in a lifetime. And we're scared to love, but it's alright. I may not know a lot of things, but I know that we're surefire. Know that we're surefire. Can keep this bed warm on the left side. But something as cold as a goodbye. Why don't you turn around? Ignore all that shit from the outside. Oh, the world is a nightmare. Wake up and stay here. Let me be on your side. We'll make this our kingdom, somewhere where good love conquers and not divides. And oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my God, I'm so tired of fighting. Let go, give it, let go, give up. Oh, I may not know a lot of things, but I feel it in my chest. No, I won't let the blue flame die. We can't lose hope just yet. Always once, just once in a lifetime. We're scared to love, and it's alright. I may not know a lot of things, but I know that we're surefire. I know that we're surefire. And oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my God, I'm so tired of fighting. Let go, give it, let go, and give up. Oh, I may not know a lot of things, but I feel it in my chest. And if we just let the blue flame die, the devil wins his battle. Oh, it's once, just once in a lifetime. We're scared to love, but it's alright. I may not know a lot of things, but I know that we're surefire. 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 Oh. Thank you for being here today. I'll do one more song. I want to thank Jon Pareles for being such a great interviewer and such a great journalist. Thank the New York Times. And thanks to all of you. What would I do without your smart mouth? Drawing me in and you kicking me out. You've got my head spinning, no kidding, I can't pin you down. What's going on in that beautiful mind? I'm on your magical mystery ride, and I'm so dizzy, don't know what hit me, but I'll be alright. My head's underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, how many times do I have to tell you? Even when you're crying, you're beautiful too. The world is beating you down. I'm around through every move. You're my downfall, you're my muse, my worst distraction, my rhythm and blues. I can't stop singing, it's ringing in my head for you. My hands underwater, but I'm breathing fine. You're crazy and I'm out of my mind, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, cards on the table, we're both showing hearts, risking it all, though it's hard, 'cause all of me loves all of you. Love your curves and all your edges, all your perfect imperfections. Give your all to me, I'll give my all to you. You're my end and my beginning. Even when I lose, I'm winning, 'cause I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, I give you all of me, and you give me all of you. Oh, thank you. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Jon. That was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. After you, sir.